Hey Reddit, I'm Ryan, 32, and last week I found out exactly how much I actually mattered to my family. Turns out, it wasn't a lot. Unless, of course, we're talking about money. Because that was the only thing they ever truly cared about. And when I finally said no for the first time in my life, they lost their minds. It started with a voicemail from my mom. Hey Ryan, just checking in. We're waiting on that transfer, so let me know when you send it. Love you. I read the transcript, listened to the message, and I just sat there because I hadn't promised any transfer. I hadn't even spoken to them in weeks. Yet, somehow, they were just expecting money. Like it was a given. Like it was my job. I sighed, tossed my phone on the table, and went about my day. Didn't respond. Didn't even think about responding. And then, the real chaos began. The next day, I woke up to 23 missed calls, 38 unread texts, and more voicemails than I even bothered listening to. I scrolled through the messages, my stomach twisting. At first, they were polite. Mom, hey sweetie, just checking in. We really need that transfer. Let me know when you send it. Then they turned passive-aggressive. Dad, Ryan, you need to stop ignoring us. This is important. Then, they got angry. Mom, wow. So you're just going to be selfish now? After everything we've done for you? Sister, Ryan, seriously? You know we need this. Stop acting like a child and just send it. I blinked. Then I laughed. Because this was insane. For context, I had been helping my family financially for years. Not because I had to, but because they always made it seem like I owed them. Like it was my duty as the successful one to take care of everyone else. They never asked directly. No, they were smarter than that. They would call me and drop little hints. Oh, things are just so hard right now. We've been struggling to keep up with bills. If only we had a little more cushion this month. And every time, I'd give in because I felt guilty, because I didn't want to be the one to say no. But this time, I wasn't playing their game anymore. I wasn't sending a damn thing. And they were about to realize that real fast. Instead of answering any of their calls, I sent one text. Me, no more transfers. That was it. No explanation. No argument. Just a simple, final statement. Then I put my phone down and waited for the explosion. It didn't take long. A minute later, my sister sent a furious message. Sister, WTF, do you mean no more transfers? Are you serious right now? Then my mom. Mom, Ryan, what is wrong with you? You know we need this. This isn't a joke. Then my dad. Dad, you're making a huge mistake. Don't do this. I ignored them. And that made it so much worse. The next few hours were pure insanity. They called again and again, left voicemail after voicemail. When I didn't pick up, they started bringing in other people. Aunt, Ryan, honey, I don't know what's going on, but your mother is very upset. Please just talk to her. Uncle, your parents have done so much for you. The least you can do is help them now. Cousin, dude, why are you being such a DCK? It's family. Asterisk. I stared at my screen. Because this was next-level manipulation. They weren't just guilting me anymore. They were turning the entire family against me. Like I was some horrible, selfish villain for not handing over my money. I took a deep breath. Then I sent one last message. Me, nobody is entitled to my money. Not you. Not mom. Not dad. I don't owe any of you anything. Stop calling me. Then I turned off my phone. Because I was done. For the first time in my life, I was standing my ground. And my family? They were about to lose their minds.
The moment I turned my phone back on the next morning, it exploded with notifications. Missed calls, more texts, a few voicemails I had no intention of listening to. I scrolled through the messages, watching as my family went through every stage of manipulation. First, denial. Mom, Ryan, I don't know what's gotten into you, but we'll talk about this when you calm down. Then guilt tripping. Dad, you wouldn't even be where you are without us. And this is how you repay us? Then anger. Sister, you're an ungrateful piece of SHD, seriously. What the hell is wrong with you? Asterisk. And finally, desperation. Mom, Ryan, please. We need this money. Just this once. Just help us one last time. I sighed, tossing my phone onto the table. Because I had seen this pattern before. It was always the same cycle. The second they realized I wasn't playing along, they tried to guilt me, insult me, and then beg me. And for years, it worked. But not this time. This time I was done. I sat with it for a while, letting their messages sink in. Did it sting to see them turn on me so quickly? Yeah, but was I surprised? Not even a little. Because when I really thought about it, this wasn't about family. It never had been. It was about control. They weren't upset because they needed money. They were upset because I had finally stopped obeying them. Because for the first time in my life, I had told them no, and they couldn't handle that. Instead of responding, I went about my day. Took my time, enjoyed a coffee, actually focused on my own life instead of worrying about fixing theirs. And you know what? It felt good. Then, in the afternoon, my work phone rang. I frowned, because only a handful of people had this number. And when I saw the caller ID, I knew exactly what was happening. They were escalating. It was my dad, not calling my personal phone, calling my work phone. I let it ring. Then a voicemail popped up. I played it on speaker, shaking my head before he even started talking. "Ryan," he said, his voice tight with frustration. "Ignoring your family is one thing, but letting your mother sit here, crying, wondering why her own son is abandoning her, that's low, even for you." I roll my eyes. "This isn't about money anymore," he continued. "It's about respect. And right now, you're showing none. Call your mother back." Then he hung up. I took a slow breath, because now, they were going for the ultimate guilt trip. Playing the mom is crying card. Like I was some horrible monster for choosing not to be their personal ATM. It was pathetic, and I wasn't falling for it. But what happened next? That's when I realized just how far they were willing to go. Because that night, I got a text from my boss. "Boss, hey Ryan, your dad just called the office asking for you. Said it was an emergency? Everything okay?" I froze. Then I laughed. Because now, they were trying to drag my job into this. They actually thought they could pressure me through my workplace. That was a new low, and it proved something I had been trying to deny for years. They didn't just see me as their son. They saw me as a walking wallet, a resource, a lifeline. And now that I was finally saying no, they were desperate to get their claws back in. But that wasn't happening. Not anymore. I texted my boss back. "Me? Yeah, everything's fine. Just some family drama. If they call again, feel free to ignore it." He responded immediately. "Boss, got it. No worries, just wanted to check in." I took a deep breath, my fingers tightening around my phone. Because this was the final straw. They had crossed the line. And now, I was about to make sure they never pulled this *T again. I sent one final message to the family group chat. "Me, you've officially crossed the line. Calling my work? Tried to involve my boss? That's it. We're done. Don't call me. Don't text me. Don't reach out ever again." Then I blocked every single one of them. No more calls. No more guilt trips. No more being their financial safety net. For the first time in my life, I was free, and they were about to feel what it was like to live without me.
The moment I hit block on every single number, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. For the first time in my life, there was no pressure, no obligations, no waiting for the next demand. Just silence. And damn, it felt good. I sat back, letting it sink in. I had cut them off. Really, fully cut them off. And while part of me expected to feel guilty, I didn't. Not even a little. Because the truth was, I didn't walk away from my family. They pushed me away the second they decided I only mattered when I was giving them money. And now, they were about to realize exactly how much they had relied on me. For the next few days, I waited. I knew my family well enough to know they wouldn't just accept this. They wouldn't just say, "Oh well, Ryan's gone. Let's move on." No, they were panicking. They were scrambling to figure out what to do now that their main source of financial help had disappeared. And sure enough, it didn't take long before they found a new way to reach me. Because even though I had blocked them, they weren't done. Not even close. On the fourth day of silence, I got a message. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. Not even from my sister. It was from an unknown number. Unknown. "Ryan, it's Aunt Linda. Your mom is a mess. She's been crying for days. Please, just call her." I stared at the message. Then I rolled my eyes. Because now, they were bringing in reinforcements. I didn't respond. I didn't even think about responding. Instead, I went on with my day. Because I knew exactly how this worked. This was just another tactic. First, they tried demanding. Then they tried guilt-tripping. Then they tried anger. Now, they were trying to use someone else to get to me. but I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't playing their game anymore, and the longer they went without me, the more desperate they'd get. The next day, I got another message. Unknown, Ryan, please, it's Mom. Just call. Just talk to me. I don't understand what I did to deserve this. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. She didn't understand? She didn't understand how years of treating me like a personal ATM had consequences. How expecting me to fund their lifestyle while treating me like garbage might actually push me away. She didn't understand how entitlement had a price. That wasn't my problem, and it never would be again. Then things took a turn, because that night, I got a call from my landlord, which was weird, because I never had issues with my rent, and there was no reason for them to be calling me. I picked up. Hey, this is Ryan. My landlord hesitated. Hey, Ryan. Sorry to bother you, but, your mom just called the office. I blinked. Excuse me? Yeah, he sighed. She said she was concerned about you and wanted to know if everything was okay. I sat there stunned. She actually called you? Yep. He let out an awkward chuckle. Didn't give her any info, don't worry. But, thought you should know. I clenched my jaw, because now they had crossed the line. Calling my job was one thing, but calling my landlord? That was insane. I took a deep breath. Thanks for letting me know. Sorry they dragged you into this. No worries, man, he said. Just figured you'd want a heads up. I hung up, and now I was furious. I unlocked my phone, scrolled through my blocked contacts, and unblocked my mom, because now it was time to send a message she couldn't ignore. I typed out a single text. Me, if you ever call my job, my landlord, or any part of my life outside of this family again, I will file a harassment report. Consider this your final warning. Then I hit send, and I blocked her again. That finally did it, because after that text, everything went silent. No more calls, no more unknown numbers, no more pathetic guilt-tripping messages. Nothing. And for the first time in years, I actually felt free. I had finally broken the cycle. And my family? They had finally realized I was done for good. A week passed, then 2, then 3. And just when I thought I'd never hear from them again, I got one final message. From my dad. Dad, you proved your point. I hope you're happy. I stared at it. Then I smiled, because for the first time in my life, I actually was.
I stared at my dad's message for a solid minute. You proved your point. I hope you're happy. No apology. No acknowledgement of what they had done. Just pure, bitter resentment. And that told me everything I needed to know. They didn't miss me. They didn't regret what they had done. They just hated that I had finally taken control. And honestly, that made me feel even better about my decision. I put my phone down, stretched, and went on with my day. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't wasting energy on their nonsense. I was free, or at least I thought I was, until they tried one last, desperate move to drag me back in. A few days after my dad's text, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to pick up, so I did. And the moment I heard the voice on the other end, I knew I had made a mistake. It was my sister, but she wasn't screaming. She wasn't insulting me. Her voice was shaky, like she had been crying. Ryan, she whispered. I don't know who else to call. I rolled my eyes. Of course. Now that they had no other options, suddenly I was worth talking to. I sighed. What do you want? She sniffled. It's Mom. She's really bad. I didn't say anything, because I knew what this was. Another guilt trip. Another attempt to make me feel responsible for their problems. And I wasn't falling for it. Not this time. I kept my voice flat. Define that. My sister hesitated. Then in a quiet, guilty voice, she said, she's been freaking out about money. Ah, there it was. I smirked. So let me get this straight. The same mother who called my boss and my landlord trying to manipulate me? The same mother who had no problem cutting me off from the family when it suited her? The same mother who treated me like a walking ATM? Silence. Then, finally, my sister whispered, yeah. I chuckled. And now she's upset because I stopped funding her life. Yeah. I leaned back in my chair. This was pathetic. They never learned. Even now, after weeks of silence, they still thought I would come running back. That all they had to do was play the poor, helpless mom card and I'd drop everything to fix it. But they were wrong. I sighed. Let me make this really simple for you, Emily. I don't care. She let out a sharp breath. Ryan. No, I cut her off. You had plenty of chances to treat me like family. Instead, you treated me like a paycheck. So now, you can all deal with this on your own. Ryan, please. I hung up, and this time, I didn't feel even a little bit guilty. Over the next few days, I ignored every attempt they made to reach me. I was done. If they hadn't learned by now, they never would. But apparently, they weren't ready to give up just yet. Because a week later, they pulled their most desperate stunt yet. It was a Saturday. I was out running errands, enjoying my completely stress-free life without my family breathing down my neck. Then, as I was leaving the grocery store, I saw something that made me stop in my tracks. My mom, standing outside my apartment building, waiting for me. I felt my blood run cold. This was a whole new level of crazy. I took a deep breath, debating whether to just turn around and pretend I hadn't seen her. But she spotted me, and the moment our eyes met, she burst into tears. I groaned. Here we go. I walked over, keeping my face neutral. What are you doing here, Mom? She wiped her eyes dramatically. Ryan, I just needed to see you. I crossed my arms. What? She sniffled. Because I don't know who you are anymore. I let out a short laugh. You mean because I stopped letting you use me? Her face twisted. That's not fair. I tilted my head. Really? So you showing up at my home uninvited? After weeks of me telling you I want nothing to do with you, that's fair? She clenched her jaw. I did everything for you, Ryan. I sacrificed so much. And you? Mom. I sighed. Cut the act. Just tell me what you want. She froze. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, she muttered. We need help. I smirked. And there it is. Her eyes flashed with anger. I raised you, Ryan. I took care of you. Is it so wrong to expect you to do the same for your family? I stared at her. Then I said something I had been holding back for years. You didn't raise me. You controlled me. Her breath hitched. You used guilt and manipulation to make me feel responsible for everyone else. You made me think that I had to earn love by giving you money. And now that I finally stopped, I took a step closer. You don't know what to do. Her hands trembled. That's not true. I shook my head. It is. And the worst part? I don't even think you realize it. Tears filled her eyes. But I felt nothing. Because this wasn't real sadness. This was realizing she had lost control. And I was never giving it back. I exhaled. I'm done, Mom. I don't hate you. But I don't trust you. And I don't want anything to do with this family anymore. She opened her mouth. Then closed it. Because for the first time, she had nothing to say. I stepped around her and walked inside. And that was the last time I ever saw her. 2 months passed. No more calls. No more texts. No more showing up at my damn house. And for the first time in my life, I had peace. Then, one day, I got a final email. From my mom. It was short. Mom, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. But I'm sorry. For all of it. I just wanted you to know that. I stared at it. Then, I deleted it. Because for once, I wasn't the one fixing things. They wanted me to feel like I owed them forever. But now, they finally realized the truth. I owed them nothing. And I never had. I read my mom's email 3 times before deleting it. No response. No second guessing. No guilt. Just a single click, and it was gone. Because for the first time in my life, I truly understood what my family had done to me. They had spent years making me feel like my worth was tied to what I could provide. That love was conditional. As long as I was useful, as long as I was giving, as long as I was paying. But now that I wasn't playing their game, they had no idea what to do. And that was their problem, not mine. I closed my laptop, stretched, and went about my day like nothing had happened. Because in my world, they didn't exist anymore. Weeks passed, then months. No more unknown numbers. No more dramatic messages. No more "we need you" texts. It was silent. And for the first time in my life, that silence felt good. I started focusing on my own life. I traveled. I picked up new hobbies. I stopped checking my phone every 5 minutes, expecting another emergency that I had to fix. And most of all, I stopped feeling like I owed anyone anything. Because I didn't. And I never had. Then, one day, I got a call from an old friend. Not someone connected to my family. Just a friend I hadn't seen in years. We caught up, grabbed some drinks, and he asked, "So how's your family doing?" I laughed. Because honestly, I had no idea. And the best part? I didn't care. But just when I thought I had fully moved on, I got one last surprise. It happened on a random Thursday. I was walking home from work when I saw a familiar face. My sister, sitting outside a coffee shop, alone, and she looked different, not put together, not confident, just tired. I hesitated. For a long time, I had told myself I was done with them, that they weren't worth my time. But something in me, curiosity, maybe made me stop. She looked up. Our eyes met, and for the first time in years, she didn't look angry. She just looked embarrassed. I sighed. Emily. She swallowed hard. Ryan. I didn't sit, didn't ask how she was, just waited, because if she wanted to talk, she had to be the one to start. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't expect to see you. I nodded. Yeah, well, here we are. Silence. Then she blurted out, I just wanted to say, I get it now. I raised an eyebrow. Get what? She let out a bitter chuckle. Everything. I said nothing, because I wanted to hear what she had to say without feeding her an answer. She looked down, picking at her sleeve. Mom's been struggling, and for a while, I thought it was your fault, that you abandoned her, left her out to dry. I folded my arms, and she exhaled, and then I realized she never actually tried to help herself. She looked up at me. She expected everyone else to take care of things. First Dad, then you, then me. I didn't say anything, because for the first time, she was actually understanding. She swallowed hard. I'm not here to ask for anything, Ryan. I swear. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I studied her for a moment, trying to decide if this was real, if she actually meant it. And for the first time, I thought maybe, just maybe, she did. I sighed. Took you long enough. She laughed quietly. Yeah. Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable, just neutral, like two people who finally saw things clearly. She hesitated. Do you think we'll ever talk again? I thought about it. Then I shrugged. Maybe. Her eyes lit up, just for a second. And for the first time in years, I realized I didn't hate her. I hated what she had become under our parents. But now, maybe she was finally becoming her own person. And that was the only thing that could ever bring me back. I gave her a small nod. Take care, Emily. She nodded back. And as I walked away, I didn't feel angry, or guilty, or sad. I just felt free. Because for the first time in my life, I had taken control of my own story. And my family? They had finally learned what it felt like to live without me.